日本グランプリにお越しくださいました。日本グランプリを十分に楽しんでください。
As it has for generations of other adventurers, Japan holds a world of possibilities for the stars of Formula One. To Alain Prost, Japan is a possible third world championship and the end of a tumultuous career at Team McLaren.
I have absolutely no pressure considering the championship itself. I have a lot of pressure considering all the problems I've had in the team in the last few months. And that makes my work, my job very difficult.
To Ayrton Senna, Japan is a chance to overtake Prost and defend his world title.
It's going to be tough for me, but I have nothing to lose at this stage. Therefore, I have to try everything that I can. And we know other thing other than win.
To Nigel Mansell, coming off a one-race suspension, Japan means possible redemption in the eyes of his countrymen.
If I can win another race this year, I equal, from the British point of view, I equal the great record of Sterling Moss of 16 Grand Prix wins. So, I mean, I really want to win another race because in Portugal, as we all know, I was 27, 28 seconds in the lead, just going away until I had a few problems.
And to Gerhard Berger, Japan is a chance to prove he has not given up on the team he will leave at season end.
I'm racing for Gerhard Berger and Ferrari, so I will do my best to win a race. Doesn't matter who loses or who wins the championship.
For these 4 and 22 more, the possibilities of Japan are about to become reality. Go in the town of Suzuka, Japan, tickets went on sale for round 15 of the World Driving Championship. Just 6 days later, all 120,000 grandstand seats were sold out for the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, wishing you konnichiwa, good day, and welcome to Suzuka. Behind me, a part of the massive crowd that has gathered for this race. The Suzuka track is owned by the Honda Motor Company, and so it's only appropriate that for the 4th year in a row, Honda-powered drivers are vying for the world title here in Suzuka. This year, it's the defending Formula One champion, Ayrton Senna of Brazil, and his bitter arch rival and McLaren Honda teammate, Alain Prost of France. With me to analyze the action, as usual, the Bard of Upper Boddington, England, David Hobbs. And David, we've already seen Satoru Nakajima, who'll be a big local favorite here today driving for Lotus, but I think all eyes are going to be on Senna and Prost.
Well, also, Bob, today's story is going to be teammates. 2 sets of teammates sit astride the top 4 positions, and they'll still be teammates next year, only they'll be, of course, for different teams. One of those teammates, Ayrton Senna, for the 12th time this year and the 41st of his relatively short career, sits astride the pole, an incredible 1.7 seconds quicker than Alain Prost. Now, just to recap on this World Championship, a lot of people are having trouble with the scoring system, but what it boils down to, if Ayrton Senna wants to regain his championship this year, he must win today. And having done that, he has to win in 2 weeks in Australia. For Alain Prost to win the championship, absolutely guarantee it today, he must win today. Otherwise, it doesn't matter where he finishes if Ayrton Senna should win the race. Now, if one of their other teammates, i.e. Berger or Mansell, should win the race, it's all over for Senna and Prost becomes the world champion. Got that right? Well, down in McLaren land, with more on the action, is John Bisignano.
Thank you very much, David, and I think the Suzuka pits will prove to be one of the most active we've had all season long. This weekend, the tires have been developing huge blisters, both on the front and the rear. I think that's because of the fast sweeping bends around this Japanese circuit. All the teams are planning at least 1 pit stop and possibly 2. You know, when you talk to Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, they don't really like to reveal the fact that this weekend has a great deal of added tension because of the World Championship. But both of those gentlemen, they want to be the 1989 Grand Prix World Champion. I think it's a little ironic that just above the McLaren pits is also the winner's podium. That podium will hold the Grand Prix champion of Japan and possibly of the world. We will know in 2 hours' time.
Thank you, John. Take your seats, folks. What's coming up next should be the most dramatic Grand Prix of the season. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. By Nissan, built for the human race. By Microwave, computer systems for your business. And by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. When we come back, we'll introduce the starting grid and take an incredible lap of the Suzuka circuit with our pole sitter, Ayrton Senna. Stay with us. Welcome back to Suzuka, Japan, where we're just moments away from the command to start engines for the 5th running of the Japanese Grand Prix. Weather here in Suzuka quite good, mid-70-degree temperatures, the sun starting to burn through some high haze, very little chance of rain, and a light breeze blowing up the pit straightaway into the drivers' faces. Here's the way the field will line up for today's Formula One Grand Prix of Japan. On the pole, Ayrton Senna of Brazil, the defending world champion and Japanese Grand Prix winner of a year ago, with an outright track record of 1 minute 38.041 seconds. You'll see that lap in just a moment. Next to him, Alain Prost of France, his teammate, who needs a victory of his own or something less than that from Senna in order to clinch his 3rd world championship. Inside row 2 will be Gerhard Berger of Austria for Ferrari, the 1987 Japanese winner. Next to him, Ferrari teammate Nigel Mansell of Great Britain, making his return after that historic hiatus in Spain a few weeks ago. Row 3 will be Riccardo Patrese of Italy in the new Williams-Renault, 2.8 seconds off pole speed. Next to him, Italian countryman Sandro Nannini in a trick new Benetton Ford with a new V8 engine, still 3 seconds adrift of the pole. Row 4 will be Terry Boutsen of Belgium in the 2nd Williams, next to Philippe Alliot of France, who it was confirmed this weekend is out of his Lola ride for next year. More on that later. Row 5 will be Stefano Modena of Italy in the Brabham, next to his countryman Nicola Larini in the Osella. Row 6 will be Nelson Piquet of Brazil, next to his Lotus teammate Satoru Nakajima of Japan, a big crowd favorite. Row 7 will be Martin Brundle of Great Britain in the Brabham, leading the drivers 4 seconds or more off pole. Next to him, Spain's Luis Perisala in the Minardi. Row 8 will be Alex Caffi of Italy in the Dallara, next to his teammate and countryman Andrea De Cesaris. Ivan Capelli will be inside row 9 for Leighton House March, next to Jean Alesi, the young Frenchman driving for Tyrrell. Row 10 will be Paolo Barilla of Italy, sitting in for the injured Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, next to Maurizio Guglielmin of Brazil in the Leighton House March. Row 11 will be Bernd Schneider of Germany, making the first GP start for Zach Speed since Rio way back in March. Next to him, Emanuele Pirro of Italy in the 2nd Benetton. Row 12 will be Olivier Griard of France for Ligier, next to Eddie Cheever of the United States in the USF&G Arrows, and row 13, Derek Warwick in the 2nd USF&G Arrows Ford, next to Dr. Jonathan Palmer of Great Britain in the Tyrrell. Those who missed the cut include René Arnoux in the twilight of his career with Ligier, Michele Alboreto for Lola, both Rials of Raffanel and Gachot, the Osella of Piercarlo Genzani also retiring this year, neither Coloni for Moreno or Bertaggia, the Onyx team of Johansson and Lato both missed out, Aguri Suzuki, a big disappointment there for the Japanese crowd for Zach Speed, Oscar Larori in the Eurobrune, and both AGS cars of Gabriele Tarquini and Yannick Dalmas. The course here in Suzuka, the 2nd longest the drivers see all year, second only to the monster at Spa-Francorchamps. Here is David Hobbs's turn-by-turn description of Suzuka with the help of our pole sitter.
The Suzuka Circuit, 3.64 miles, 20 turns, one of the most twisting and undulating courses in the whole Grand Prix season. Let's go around all of 129 miles an hour for Ayrton Senna.
Thank you, David. An amazing lap. We're going to take a quick time out and give you a look at our Pick 6 as we do it. We all pick Ayrton Senna to win here in Japan and send the title fight to Australia in 2 weeks. David and I both see Nigel Mansell finishing 2nd. John likes Alain Prost. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Suzuka Circuit in the Grand Prix of Japan. The tremendous noise you hear are the cars starting up on the grid, making their final warm-up lap. The latest technical information, Gerhard Berger is in trouble. We don't know exactly what it is. They had some clutch problems with that car, and I don't think they are solved. Nigel Mansell okay, both McLarens okay. March, Capelli is in the T car, Gugelmin is okay, Benetton, the Nannini, he had a development engine all weekend long for qualifying. They took the development engine out. They did not think it would make the race, but that engine is in Pirro's car for the development try to finish the event. Brabham, they are in the T car. Brundle is in that T car. Palmer is stuck. He is stuck in the pits with a fuel leak, and we have 2 cars smoking on the grid. Right now, we'll get you those stories as soon as we can.
John, we can see one of them from up here. It looked like Paolo Barilla's first Grand Prix start has come to to a premature conclusion. They fired the engine. It absolutely belched white smoke. I think he might have blown it on the grid. And now the car has, I believe, fired. Is he on the racetrack now?
Well, he certainly disappeared from the grid. Just how far he's gone, I don't know, but it left the most amazing cloud of smoke, and you'd have thought it was a turbocharged car, but no, he's off on the grid. He's off on the track at the moment. We'll have to see when he comes back to reform what it looks like then.
He is on the track. I can see him across the racetrack. We have a view from our announce position of a good part of the circuit here, even though it is a very long and narrow one, as you saw a few moments ago. Ayrton Senna is bringing the field around, and they have quite a ways to go to get back to the start-finish line. The McLarens will be carrying our onboard cameras today, so this should be something really special.
Well, we certainly had some special shots in practice. We saw one of the shots as Ayrton Senna went through the quickest corner here, that left-hand flick. And parked on the edge of the road was a white-looking car, which we thought was an Arrow. As it turned out, it was. And Eddie Cheever had spun at about 186 miles an hour. And I was speaking to him this morning. He said he had never been so frightened in his entire life.
Eddie Cheever, who will be leaving Formula One in order to go sports car racing in the very near future, we understand. We certainly wish him a lot of success, and maybe sometime in the future we'll see another American driving in Formula One.
And we also, of course, may see Eddie Cheever racing in the IMSA Series next year in the States, which would be nice for his American fans.
We'll give you a look at past winners of the Japanese Grand Prix. Mario Andretti, a winner, along with James Hunt when the circuit was run at Fuji. More recently, Gerhard Berger in 1987, and Ayrton Senna, who leads the race today, hoping to become the first two-time winner of this race. And as David mentioned earlier, we cannot overstate, he must win today in order to have any hope of retaining his world championship.
Of course, it takes a lot of pressure off Alan Prost. It doesn't matter where he finishes if Senna wins. On the other hand, I don't think personally that Alan Prost is going to try too hard to win this race today, because really the pressure is still extremely heavy on Senna, because if anybody else wins, Prost automatically takes the title. On the other hand, when you're on the front row of the grid, and he had a very good run this morning in the morning's warm-up, and Alan Prost was in fact the quickest runner this morning, so maybe he's found something overnight and got his race set up just so that he may in fact decide to go all out, win the race and the championship right here in front of Honda, which of course would be just wonderful for him to take that championship to Ferrari next year. Not in Honda's plan at all.
Now the start here at Suzuka is very different. It is downhill, so we expect a very quick green light. Recall a year ago, Ayrton Senna, sitting on pole for this race, stalled his McLaren on the grid, wound up in 13th position as it started to rain, and gave one of the most incredible driving exhibitions I think I've ever seen, coming through the field, taking the lead from Alain Prost and going on to win the race. He called it easily the finest drive of his life.
It certainly was incredibly impressive. I remember it so well, and the track got just that bit slippery and everybody fell off the pace, and Senna just really piled on the pressure. There's no doubt about it that he is definitely the man of the moment.
Senna comes to a stop. Beyond his car is the red and white McLaren of Alain Prost. Two men who do not like each other at all, but the only two men with a shot at the 1989 Formula One World Championship.
Of course, as some cynic pointed out this morning, all it needs is Alain Prost to run into Ayrton Senna at the first corner and put both cars out of the race, and Alain Prost is your world champion. I don't think he's made of that sort of material, but I suppose it would be a thought if it goes down to Adelaide.
We will start one car short. As John has already mentioned, a problem with a fuel leak on the car of the 26th starter, Dr. Jonathan Palmer. There you see Ayrton Senna. The eyes, the window to the soul. Tear-off shields on his visor. Alain Prost, visor down. The field coming to a stop. The USF&G Arrows cars, the 24th and 25th starters. The green flag waves. There is the red and then the green. Clean start up front for the McLarens. Nigel Mansell in the red Ferrari to the right of your picture.
Prost made a tremendous start. Absolutely copybook start.
So it is Prost, Senna, and Berger as they make the first corner. And it looks clean thus far.
Field streaming through. Very difficult twin apex corner. That now they're into the S's. And here's where you want a good smooth handling car. And of course, Ayrton Senna right in the slipstream of Alain Prost. Not the best place to be, of course, from a downforce point of view, but everybody behind them even worse off. Through that very, very fast, long left-hander. Up into sixth gear as they exit that corner. Close to 170 miles an hour right here as they brake for the first part of this second double apex corner.
Well, far from sitting back and far from knocking his teammate off, it looks like Alain Prost of France is going to go out and try to take the Japanese Grand Prix by the horns. Down into the hairpin. Second gear corner for most of the cars.
Here we see the start again. And Prost just gets the mix absolutely perfect.
Not even leaving a trace of tires down there. Alain Prost away cleanly. Senna tucks into second, followed by the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger third. Let's go down to John Visignano in the pit.
Just very quickly, both of you in the booth where I was standing, it looked like Prost might have actually jumped the start. Have another look at it.
Well, if we get an opportunity to have another look at it, we certainly will. We just had a replay there, but we didn't have the light the second time, so it was hard to tell. But he certainly did make the most of that start. Of course, we'll have to see if the officials decide whether or not he did jump that flag.
No indication, but the first lap not yet complete of 53 scheduled. Now your leader, Alain Prost, comes down past the flag stand. There is no flag. Make it Prost, followed by his teammate Ayrton Senna. Behind them, Gerhard Berger. And the gap about a second from car to car.
Alain Prost at this stage showing some of that flair that's made him a two-time world champion and of course the most prolific Grand Prix winner of all time as he pulls away from his teammate Ayrton Senna here in Japan.
Here's another look at the start. That is Satoru Nakajima.
Ooh,
just missing getting put out by Martin Brundle in the blue and white Brabham.
Martin Brundle really scraping through there.
From the head-on, I also saw one of the Ligers getting a very good quick start. But the leader right now is Alain Prost. Over Senna with Gerhard Berger third, 2 seconds, 0.7 behind, followed by Sandro Nannini, Riccardo Patrese, and Nigel Mansell in the second Ferrari.
Nigel not making a very good start. Berger again making one of those good Ferrari starts. That 7-speed semi-automatic gearbox really helping them on that run down to turn 1, but not helping them enough here.
Now we see one driver already caught. That's Bernd Schneider with the Zaxbyt team is out of his car. They momentarily showed a yellow flag at the start-finish line, but that has now been removed. He has parked the car off the side of the road, as you see there.
Bernd Schneider, the first time they've made a race for Zaxbyt since Brazil, and he's out at the end of lap 1.
Well, at least in Brazil, he got halfway through the race before he tangled with Eddie Cheever. Not the case here in Japan. They are said to be losing their West cigarette sponsors next year, and it remains to be seen what will happen to Zaxbyt in 1990. Ayrton Senna beginning to close down a little bit of the gap now to the leader Alain Prost, and Berger closing on Senna. A look up the long pit straightaway here in Suzuka, Japan, as Alain Prost leads the Japanese Grand Prix with 2 laps complete.
Well, the gap now is up to 2.2 seconds, so in fact, Alain Prost pulled out nearly a second on that lap.
Your leader is Prost, followed by Senna, Berger, Nannini, Patrese, Mansell, Boutsen, Stefano Modena, Felipe Alio, and Martin Brundle filling out the top 10. Then it's Larini, Nelson Piquet, Satoru Nakajima, Alex Caffey, Andre de Cesaris, Jean Alesi, Ivan Capelli, and Maurizio Gugelmin. 19th is Emanuele Pirot, and 20th, Olivier Griard. Eddie Cheever and Derek Warwick follow in 21st and 22nd. Palmer and Schneider are now out of the Japanese Grand Prix. Alain Prost using all of the roadway and then some. The only track in Formula One with an overpass. They have just proceeded under the back straightaway, so to speak. Actually, a long straightaway that runs up the middle of the track, taking the drivers back to the paddock and the start-finish line. Let's go down to the pits and John Visignano for more on all that smoke we saw at the start.
Actually, there was so much smoke, I thought there were 2 cars having trouble down there, but Paulo Barilla making his very first Grand Prix start for the Minardi team, his fire extinguisher let go right on the grid. We don't know what the officials are going to do about it. If they really know the truth, he may be black flagged and called in for being out there without a fire extinguisher. It's certainly a heck of a lot of smoke.
A lot indeed. You see the contrails off the rear wing of the McLaren Honda of Alain Prost. Quite humid here this afternoon in Suzuka, Japan, and we expect we'll be seeing that air crushed over that rear wing. All the condensation being squeezed out of the air as it rushes over the wing and creates the all-important downforce for these race cars, and that creates the visible contrails.
The best trails of the day, of course, being the Ferrari wing, so whether they're running just a bit more wing or a slightly less efficient wing, it's hard to tell. Alain Prost maintains a good, healthy lead over Senna. As you see again, those contrails going into that turn 1. Tricky combination now. Very fast entry into turn 1, which sort of turns into that second apex of turn 2. Have to make another gear shift, and then they're into these these S's. Very, very demanding corners and an exceptionally demanding course on the driver. A tremendous amount of strain to the neck and the shoulders and the upper arm. There's a car pulled off. Is that Schneider's car? There you see the gap between first and second, now up to just over 2 seconds, 3.6 on the screen there on the world feed, only 2.2 seconds on our Olivetti.
I was watching Senna's car. I thought I saw a little blue tire smoke. He may be having a handling problem, but it may just also be my eyes. 3.36 seconds, the gap crossed to Senna. Gerhard Berger just another 2.2 seconds in arrears, and in fact pulling up even closer. You see the red Ferrari at the back of the picture, visibly closing the gap to Ayrton Senna.
Here we see Alan Prost's view of the circuit, the sort of circuit view that most drivers like, absolutely dead clear in front. He's now going around the spoon curve at the far end of the track on the way back to the pits. This is the beginning of the longest and fastest straight here. Gets to about 186 as he crests the hill here. You can see where it goes across the track. The wire fence there, 290.
Now there's an innovation supplied to us by Fuji TV. We're going to be giving you speed readings. You saw him get up just over 290 clicks, about 175 miles an hour at that point, and now he absolutely pummels the curving. Let's take a lap with Alain Prost and listen to that Honda V10. Quite a lap complete, but our thanks to the folks from Fuji TV for allowing us to see here and get some idea of how fast Alain Prost is going up on the point. 3.4 seconds, the gap to Ayrton Senna, who continues to slide further into the clutches of Gerhard Berger, now just 1.8 seconds behind him. Nannini another 3 seconds behind in fourth position. Mansell 3.3 seconds behind Nannini in fifth. 4 laps complete of 53 scheduled.
Right-hand sweep down here into the hairpin, a tricky combination that you've got to brake and get the car set up at the same time, change down using all the road out. Ayrton Senna right out to the edge of the road as they come up on that back straight that fast. The sparks coming there, a bit of combination of sparks in the car, and there's some tear-offs coming off.
Off of the visor, they use little bits of plastic to cover the visor. A lot of grounding in these cars.
Actually, that looked to me like a bit of a mistake, because that was Alan Prost's tear-offs coming off, and it looked like they all came off. And obviously he wouldn't need to have any tear-offs come off yet, because there's nobody in front dropping any oil on him.
Well, if he does get oil now, he'll have no protection, and that could be a problem later on. Downhill, steeply downhill. In fact, to the start-finish line, the yellow helmet with the green and black piping of Ayrton Senna. We're going to take a quick timeout as the contrails fly off the rear wing of the world champions, McLaren Honda. Alain Prost is your leader over Ayrton Senna, Gerhard Berger, Sandro Nannini, Nigel Mansell, Patrese, Boutsen, Madonna, Alio, and Brundle follow. It's the Japanese Grand Prix, and we'll be right back. Complete at the Grand Prix of Japan. You're watching Gerhard Berger of Austria in, well, the penultimate race of his Ferrari career, presently running in third position on the racetrack. The leader is Alain Prost with 3.8 seconds in hand now over teammate Ayrton Senna. This is a do-or-die event for Senna. He must win this race in order to send the championship to Australia in 2 weeks, a race you will see here on ESPN. You're on board with Senna now, and he cannot even see Alain Prost out ahead of him.
No, I was just going to say, that gives you an idea of the gap that's developed between himself and Prost as he goes through these S's. I was looking at his tyres a couple of corners ago from outside. The shots are just a little bit long, but his front tyres don't look just too hot to me, especially that right one. This is a very odd corner. Now you see this long left-hander he's in now. This is a predominantly right-hand circuit, but it just so happens that all the worst corners are left-handers, and it's the right front tyre that takes a licking here.
Favorite son in the land of the rising sun in the yellow number 12 Lotus. That is Satoru Nakajima trailing Emanuele Pirro running in the Benetton. As you heard John say, the trick new Ford V8 is in that car undergoing race development, and right now they are running 14th and 15th.
Sella narrows on the ground.
That's Larini and Sella. Nicola Larini taking to the grass, trying to steady the car before he takes it over the curbing and back onto the racetrack. And very nearly into the way of Maurizio Guglielmi in the march.
Well, we don't know quite where that happened. I'll tell you what is interesting, though. We just saw Piro and Nakajima duking it out, which is, one of them's either done extremely well, Piro, who qualified 22nd, Nakajima qualified 12th. Either Nakajima slipped back horribly in front of his home crowd, which would be very disappointing, or Piro's making a bit of a surge through the field.
Nakajima made a terrible start, so it might be him coming back to Piro, now running in the 14th position. Nakajima shown 12th on our latest electronic update, but obviously not the case on the racetrack. It's a very hazy day here in Suzuka, Japan. As you watch the McLaren crew looking on, Prost is your leader. Senna now 4.3 seconds behind, so he's losing a couple of tenths on each lap with 6 complete. Berger still third, Nannini fourth, Mansell fifth. Patrese, Boutsen, Modena, Alio, and Piquet fill out the top 10.
Well, it is true, in fact, that Nakajima has fallen back into the clutches of Emanuele Piro. Has made a great surge through the field. He's running in 14th spot from his 22nd starting spot on the grid. So that's very good for him and the Benetton Ford. Piro at the moment, a man without a drive for 1990.
Piro is an interesting case as you watch Senna making his way around. Piro is the McLaren test driver. He has driven over 30,000 miles on this racetrack, so he should know it well.
He should be able to make it. If anybody can make a charge to the field, it should be him, right?
In fact, earlier this year, in the Phoenix edition of the World Championship, the U.S. Grand Prix, Piro was driving this racetrack in the dark. Well, the track was lit in the middle of the night in Japan, I should say, while Prost, the man right there, and Senna were trying to conquer an overheating problem in their cars in Phoenix, Arizona. They tried to duplicate the problem on Piro's car running under the lights here in Japan, and they eventually got the problem solved. Of course, Alain Prost went on to win the race. Let's go down to the pits and John Visignano.
You're actually getting a top-of-the-pit report here. You're looking at a color-coordinated corporation, many of them. Shell red, Mobil red, white, and blue, Camel yellow. These tickets for the Paddock Club above the pits cost $1,000 a person. Epson blue, the computer company, Leighton House green, Canon white. $1,000 a person, and everyone's happy to be here.
And it's like watching a tennis crowd. They all look left and right in unison as the cars go by. They really have their favorites here in Japan, and they enjoy their motorsports.
Now, those two views we've just seen of Alain Prost's car close up from slightly above have shown that his tyres look pretty good. And I just wish that we could have a similar view of young Mr. Senna, because I just thought a couple of laps ago his tyres didn't look quite so good. A bit early for them to be going off yet, but this is a very abrasive and a very peculiar circuit, and has had some pretty dramatic effect on some of these tyres here this weekend. Starting to go downhill now, using all the road a bit more up on that curve. Swings right here in 5th gear, about 165 as he's hard on the brakes for the hairpin. Left-hand corner. He's got that weighed up well today. Car points well as he turns in. It turned in nicely. Didn't use up too much road. Accelerated out nicely without wagging its tail too much. To another long right-hander here, which also has a tricky end because you go over that little crest, put on the brakes and turn left again. Down a couple of gears, there's Berger. Still laying those contrails, as you can see. But more than the McLaren, so the Ferrari's probably got a good bit more rear wing.
And keep in mind, there was a problem earlier on. During the warm-up, Gerhard Berger did not look good at all. Spent a lot of time in the pit lane as they poured over the rear end of that car, which is the location of that electronically actuated, semi-automatic Ferrari 7-speed gearbox. It's going to be fun to watch him as the race goes on. We'll take a quick time out, and you won't miss a thing. We'll be back for more of the Japanese Formula One Grand Prix. Prost is your leader. Senna, Berger, Nannini, and Mansell fill out the top 5.
Aggressive, smooth.
Just a little aggressive during the race.
Perfect.
I tried to be as quick as possible, not taking a lot of risk.
Consistent, not overly aggressive.
Before I used to throw the car quite a lot and going sideways and everything, but nowadays I'm trying quite smoothly.
Smooth. A smooth style, not ragged and not hurried. I believe to be aggressive, slow.
Your question would be for a Formula One driver. Say questions, ask the driver, P.O. Box 309, Crestwood, Kentucky 40014. On the track in Suzuka, Japan, how is it an upset when a man who has won a record 39 Grands Prix is leading the race by 4.6 seconds over the defending world champion? I've got to write this right now as an upset, David. Alain Prost leading this man, Ayrton Senna.
I certainly don't think it was part of Senna's game plan today. As usual, all through practice and qualifying, he was the quickest man, and yesterday afternoon did an absolute blinder in qualifying. But this morning in warm-up, Alain Prost showed his intentions, did a great job in warm-up this morning, and has obviously got his race car setup just absolutely spot on. And as we can see, he's not even in view from the second-place man, who is now just over 4.5 seconds behind. Although that gap does seem to have steadied out at around about 4.5 seconds.
With 10 laps complete here in Japan, you're watching the speeds graphically in the lower left-hand corner. If you like to use a gauge, you've got one on the right, courtesy of Fuji Television here in Japan. And the interesting thing about the setups, if in fact they are having important differences here, and it is that is allowing Alain Prost to pull away, is that Senna's setups have been going on Prost's car for many of the recent races.
Well, of course, it's true that Alain Prost for years has been the yardstick by which other drivers have gauged themselves and other teams have gauged their drivers and their cars. Alain had just got the knack of getting the perfect race setup. But a couple of times this year, he's had to capitulate and use Senna's setup. Most unusual. And Mexico is an absolutely classic example where Senna just really outthought his teammate. But maybe today, and of course, unfortunately for Senna, today is the day that really, really counts. It may be that he's just got his little calculations just a fraction wrong. Listen to that engine as he whistles down into that turn one.
Alain Prost has just reset fast lap with the car lightening up, having used its fuel. And noteworthy is the fact that Ayrton Senna has fallen 4.8 seconds, another 0.2 of a second in arrears. So the battle is gradually slipping away from the defending world champion. He cannot finish second in this race and hope to be the 1989 champ. He must win, and right now it is not looking good for Ayrton Senna.
I bet there's some very long faces in the Honda camp so far. However, it is only 10 laps into the race, and as they say, it's not over till it's over. And in racing, that's never more true, because until that checkered flag's out, I mean, don't panic. Also, don't start counting the money, which of course used to be my big mistake.
They have a lot more to count these days. Rumor in the pit, Nigel Mansell's Ferrari contract will be worth $9 million next year, matching that of next year's teammate Alain Prost.
Just count that, folks. $9 million for a year's work. Win, lose, or draw. $18 million driver bill. Fairly expensive, I'd say. There we see Senna whistling down the straight there, about 186 miles an hour, down a bit. Whistles around that sharp that left-hander, the fastest corner on this track. You just caught a glimpse there of Tyler Alexander in the blue. Oh, now locking up his front, right front. That is a definite sign. You can see that black line developing around that left front tyre, and his right front locked up on entering the chicane. All signs that the front tyres are beginning to lose their all too valuable grip.
We saw some very badly blistered tires in qualifying, not Senna's though. Senna actually put a race tire on his left front corner and qualifiers on the other 3 corners to qualify the car, set that blistering lap at 138. But right now he's having trouble getting around at 145. Well, that's good for a new best lap, but it may be costing him his tires.
Now that is one thing he does have to be very careful of. Even if his tires really are pretty good, the one thing he doesn't want to start doing is locking them up, because that is the quick way to make sure they don't last very long. The gap there, leveling out at round about 4.8 seconds. It really hasn't changed much.
Our Olivetti Longines timing system disagrees with the graphic you just saw. They still have Prost at fast lap. And even if Senna did get the fast one, he has not been able to put a dent in his teammate's lead. There you see the interval to them, 4.9 seconds on our scoreboard at the moment. Meanwhile, Berger sliding further back.
The significant thing is they are definitely making a lot of ground on Gerhard Berger. And Nannini is another 4 seconds behind him, but Nigel Mansell is 4 seconds behind him. I thought Nigel would be right up there, duking it out with the McLaren boys this afternoon, because he too went extremely well this morning in the warm-up.
A long way to go, and we expect a great number of pit stops. The folks from Goodyear tell us they're telling everyone that they will stop. They wanted a tire that would work well for half a race, and they apparently have it. As I mentioned before, we had a lot of chunking and blistering of the tires, so we expect everybody to make at least one stop.
Well, it is a particularly abrasive track, this, and as you can see, it's got an awful lot of corners and an awful lot of really heavy loaded corners where the poor old tires really are put to the test. From that picture there, it looked to me as if Ayrton was just winding old Albert Frost in just a little bit. Of course, until we see that on our Longines, we can't tell you whether that's the case or not. But
accelerating through the S's at incredible speeds. You saw the gap right there. There is Frost. 135, make that about 80 miles an hour or so.
Look at the speed at which they accelerate, too. I mean, the numbers go up almost as quick as you can, certainly as quick as you can read them. Just shows how incredibly quickly these cars accelerate.
Japanese Satoru Nakajima having problems out on the back of the track, but no problems for this man that we know of. Alain Prost leads the Japanese Grand Prix. Senna, Berger, Nannini, Mansell, Patrese, Boutsen, Alio, Piquet, and Pirro follow. Laps complete in the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan. Alain Prost has set fast lap, and he is shooting for his third World Championship. He has pulled out all the stops, as has his McLaren team. 4 cars here for this race. Both title contenders, Prost and Senna, had 2 cars at their disposal, 2 different types of engines. You figure 10 spares roughly per car. That's a lot of motors, a lot of horsepower here to decide the World Championship.
Well, to get to this race, an airline had to ship 500,000 pounds weight of spares and accessories, tools, etc., excluding drivers, mechanics, drivers' wives, and cars. So a lot of spares and a lot of parts here in Japan, all of which are going to be packed up tonight and sent on to Australia. To help this man, of course, try and win his third World Championship, which at the moment looks in good, safe hands, but there's a long way to go yet.
A long way indeed. In fact, as you look at Gerhard Berger flying contrails from his Ferrari down the hill and toward the hairpin, the gap from Prost to Senna now down to 4.7 seconds. So Senna has picked up 2 tenths. Behind them, Berger continues to slide further back, now 11 seconds behind Senna, 4 seconds back to Alessandro Nannini, 2 more seconds back to Nigel Mansell.
So Nigel Mansell started to pick up a bit of space there. There we see some nice shots of Gerhard Berger. His tyres all looked okay. The Ferrari, general consensus in the pits is that the Ferrari is the best handling car at the moment, but doesn't look like it today, does it? 12.2 seconds behind Ayrton Senna. As he whistles around that fast left-hander, wheel up on the curb there, into the chicane, hard on the brakes, right, left. They all use those curbs because it's pretty low speed. The car's doing about 40 miles an hour. It doesn't really do the suspension much damage. We did see earlier on this year Berger and Mansell both using the curbs very badly at Hockenheim, and of course Berger was ultimately to bend that wheel and have that tyre failure, which we saw such a spectacular fashion going over one of those chicanes. Ayrton Senna regains the fastest lap.
So the battle continues. Stark shadows mean the sun has broken through here in Suzuka. That's going to warm the racetrack and make things even more difficult for these drivers.
Yes, it could be that just right now, sunshine's the last thing they want. Apart from anything else, it's very, very hot work driving around this track. Extremely physical. Mostly, in fact, all of these drivers in very, very good physical condition. Hard, very, very tough guys. And they need to be in a course like this. You can just see how these cars bounce and bump around. The spring rates get stiffer and stiffer and stiffer as the aerodynamicists have their say. They don't want these cars wallowing and rolling, and they don't want the gap between the ground and the car moving too much, so they demand ever stiffer springs, which gives them better grip aerodynamically, but of course makes it very uncomfortable on the driver.
There is Sandro Nannini, presently shown in 4th position, and right behind him, Nigel Mansell, who has closed the gap and now may make a bid for 4th place.
Now there's a team, there's a duo there, of course, where there's going to be some changes. The current designer of this car, the Ferrari, John Barnard, is moving on next year to join Benetton, has a a big, long 5-year, fairly lucrative contract to work for Benetton to make a new range of Formula One cars, and we think that Ferrari are going to lose out badly by that, and that Benetton will gain. The thing is, will Benetton Ford go to a V12 or stick with their V8?
Sandro Nannini will also have a new teammate. Nelson Piquet moves from Lotus to Benetton for next year, one of a dozen or so major driver changes taking place in the off-season. Or actually taking place during the regular season, which I still don't understand. Imagine in American sports announcing if one player was going to another team while the present season was going on.
The Ferrari there of Nigel all over the Benetton Ford of Nannini. Obviously, this V8 engine car being the first V8 engine car in this field by quite a substantial margin at the moment. Although his teammate Pirro is putting on an absolutely sterling display. Shouldn't talk about things you can't see, but Pirro from 22nd on the grid is now up to 10th, including that little bump he had with Jean Alesi.
He came together with Alesi in corner and touched wheels. But making his way along is Emanuele Pirro, and as we pointed out, he knows this track well. Nannini's teammate, Pirro, his regular schedule of testing here for Honda last year called for him to do 3 hours on this track in the morning of constant laps, then eat lunch, then come back and do a full Grand Prix distance with different motors, different aerodynamics, different tires. Here's a replay of a moment ago. Ooh, serious understeer there, and one of the Lolas looks like Alio.
I think that's Sala, isn't it? Or is it a Lola?
Philippe Alliot in the Lola, I believe.
Philippe Alliot, of course, going from Lola next year, but rumor has it that he'll almost certainly drive for Ligier, the other French team.
Where he will have a teammate in Nicola Larini, moving over from Ocello, we are told, to the Ligier team. So Guy Ligier, of whom it has been said there will be a Ligier Formula One team as long as there is breath in Guy Ligier's body. We'll have a new driver lineup next year, no doubt new designers, engines, and so forth. It never changes in Formula One. Your leader, Alain Prost, with 17 laps complete. The gap now down to 3.6 seconds. So there may be problems for Prost. Senna is reeling him in. Of Japan, you're likely to see reminders of life back in the United States. Baskin-Robbins ice cream parlors with Japanese signage, of course. Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Colonel is over here, thousands of miles from where fried chicken originated. And you can even find Mr. Donut direct from Boston, but 13,000 miles away in Tokyo. Coming up on ESPN on Tuesday, October 24th, a special top-ranked boxing doubleheader from 8 to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. 3.5 hours of great action. Top-ranked boxing, Tuesday, October 24th. All up and down pit road, we have teams preparing for pit stops. They could come at any moment. Alain Prost beginning to slip back. Well, it looks as though Ayrton Senna has dropped back again now. 3.6 seconds was the gap a lap ago on lap 17. Now on lap 18, back to 4.3 seconds. So it's getting difficult to determine what's happening out there.
There's no doubt about it, though, that the two McLarens are really putting a lot of daylight. Here's one of the Ferraris.
Down here for the Ferrari. Number one stop for this Grand Prix.
Well, not bad by Formula One standards, 8.6 seconds when you've got 14, 16 guys on the car. Probably should be reasonably quick. Mansell working the steering wheel drastically there. Got into that first corner perhaps a little bit too hot. Easy to do at turn 1 at Suzuka.
Interesting speculation here, though. That was lap 18. It's a 53-lap race, so that means he's got to do a lot of laps on his next set of tires.
Mansell back on the racetrack. Not likely to keep 5th place. We'll let you know where he does return to the rank and file as soon as that's available to us. There's Alain Prost, the race leader, working traffic. Yeah, Olivier Griard and Eddie Cheever in front of him.
Now, this, of course, is where Ayrton Senna is absolutely unbelievable when it comes to traffic. And is this going to be a real big advantage for him? Down into turn 1, it's not a bad place to get people, but depends how cooperative Mr. Cheever is. Yeah, Mr. Cheever was very cooperative. Now he's got Gruillard in front of him through the S's. A bit critical of this because the McLaren is almost bound to be quicker through those S's than Gruillard, and there is no way he'll be able to overtake him through there, and there's no way really Gruillard can help him here, even though he is helping.
He moved
now
over.
There is a stout-hearted Frenchman. He wants to see that World Championship remain in French or go to French hands.
And unless I'm mistaken, the only Frenchman ever to win the World Championship is this man, Alain Prost, who has two, should have had a couple of others, trying to pick up his third today in Japan, and you're watching it here on ESPN. The gap narrows once again between Prost and Senna to 3.1 seconds.
But of course, Senna is now facing those same three cars.
You saw him at the back of the group. One driver already moving over. There from Senna's car. There is Eddie Cheever in front of him, and then Griard.
You can see Senna's got a bit of understeer there as he comes through that hairpin, cranking on more lock than he really would like, which of course is tough on that right front tire.
Let's watch and listen as Senna stalks Cheever. Moves over and even-handedly allows Senna, the other title contender, to make his way in.
Nakajima, the only Japanese driver in this Grand Prix, has arrived in the pits for a routine tire change. As you said, David, they seem to be coming in a little bit early. He almost saw that this man has done 200 interviews in the last 3 days. Back to you.
Well, that gap at the front still remains at about 4 seconds. We saw that exciting bit of pit exiting there, which we then cut away from. But cut back to Alain Prost as he swings through those S's.
A lot of activity over in the McLaren pit as they unwrap tires from their tire warmers that get them up to about 130, 140 degrees.
Nannini in.
Let's go down to John.
Alessandro Nannini arrived in the pits with all brakes locked up. Now he's having a little trouble with the left rear. The Italian driver not using the development engine. Made a 9.56 second stop. Sorry, 9-second 0.56 stop. He is not using the development engine. He is with the front leaders anyway with that V8 Ford.
And Prost makes his way around. He has more traffic in front. Senna moving up from behind. The gap 3 seconds, and it's going to be less in just a moment. You won't miss anything. We'll show you what happens when we return to the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan. Prost, Senna, Berger, Nannini, Patrese, Boutsen, Mansell, Alio, Piquet, and Pirro. Japan, Alain Prost, the race leader, has pitted. Senna takes over. Let's go down to John.
Alain Prost, this could be a world championship pit stop. Everyone wants to do it absolutely perfectly. An awful lot of dirt out of the radiators, but still it was a 9-second stop. All kinds of dirt out of the left radiator, David.
Well, that's very unexpected. You wouldn't expect him to have picked up too much dirt unless that is tire shavings either coming off his tires or rubber that he's picking off the track and the front wheels are throwing into those radiators, because obviously he hasn't been following anybody to put dirt in there. So an interesting thing is the McLaren putting enough dirt in its own radiators. There's Ayrton Senna leading the race.
Senna now leading. Prost running just ahead of Berger, so Prost is back in second position. Andrea De Cesaris right in front of Ayrton Senna. He will not brook any problems. Senna almost tried to the inside of De Cesaris.
Well, he can forget that, I would have thought. De Cesaris is not the easiest guy to pass or lap.
There are the tire blankets I mentioned earlier that heat the tires in advance of being put on the race car, so there's a minimum of time involved in getting the tires back up to working temperatures. There is Senna, your race leader. He has not pitted. Prost has. This is coverage provided by Fuji Television here in Japan. Here comes another of the Delaras. This would be Alex Coppi. Right behind him, the race leader, Ayrton Senna.
Interesting that Ayrton Senna not coming in again as he goes past the pit entry. So, Senna again putting his mastery on the race. That left front tire looks a little bit suspect. It's scuff marks on it, but obviously it is not. He's staying out, about to put Coppi behind him. Down into that very, very fast turn 1, 4th gear. Takes the second apex down to third, or down to 4th, rather 5th for the first apex.
Now, something interesting going on in the McLaren pit as you watch Ayrton Senna on the racetrack. When he passed the pit, the team immediately took the tires they had ready for him and ran them into the garage, ran back to the tire warmers, stripped them off, and prepared a whole new set.
He must be changing compounds. And here we see Nakajima having a go. Is that Martin Brundle or Stefano Modern?
Looks like Eddie Cheever.
Oh, Eddie Cheever. Yeah, good. Yeah, well done, Dave.
And he got by. Cheever letting the local favorite Satoru Nakajima go by. There is the gap between the teammates. Senna now where he wants to be, in the lead in a race he must win. Prost running second, 16.7 seconds in arrears, but Senna must go in and change tires.
Now we must also point out that it's a very long pit lane here. It's hard to tell on the TV here, but it's a very long way from where you turn off at the chicane to where you get to the pits. There's Thierry Boutsen having put new tires on his Renault engined Williams, running fairly strongly up in 6th spot, just 2 places behind his teammate Riccardo Patrese, who again out-qualified Thierry. Oh, Thierry needs to go just a little bit faster if he wants to remain one of Formula One's premier men. Derek Warwick's head bobbing about. He, of course, is on the move, going to Lotus next year with Camel sponsorship. Right behind Mauricio Guzman, and right behind him is Senna going to pits.
Senna pits. Senna headed for the McLaren pits. John Bizignano will meet him there. Very long pit lane. Watch how long he takes on the rundown. Well, I'm afraid you won't see it. Here he comes. A very long run into the pit, plus those rubber barriers there to get him to slow down. John?
Ayrton Senna arrived in the pits, and 16 mechanics have gone into the car trying to do everything perfectly, and a little bit of problem with the left front, excuse me. He is out of there. This is the front tire that's just come off that car. Absolutely no blistering that we had in practice and qualifying. They look very hot and very good. Gerhard Berger right behind us just arrived in the Ferrari. This is both McLarens, both Ferraris that made their pit stop. Ferrari lightning fast, getting them down the road, black strips of rubber all the way back out onto the track.
Well, that seemed like a very quick stop to Berger. It was a pretty good stop with Ayrton Senna, 9.8 seconds. The thing is, does that put Alan Prost back in the lead?
It would appear not.
Haven't come round yet, but I mean, I can't believe how unfussed Ayrton Senna looks sitting in the pits while they got his car jacked up.
2 seconds longer was Senna's pit stop than Prost. Now we're being told Prost has reassumed the lead. Now our electronic timing system only recycles when all of the cars still in the race have crossed the start-finish line, so it can take quite a while before it regurgitates all
there
the information.
There we see them on the screen now. Alan Prost, and not so far behind him, Ayrton Senna making up ground. As we keep saying, Senna has to win this race if he wants to win the championship.
Senna will now trail Prost. 23 laps in, Senna made his pit stop. Will one of them dare to go the rest of the way on the set of tires he has on the car now? It remains to be seen.
Of course, those first few laps, you get the most tire wear because the car is the heaviest with all the fuel on board, and they probably drive just that little bit harder. From now on, they can start to pace themselves just a little bit more.
There is Alain Prost back in front once again. We're going to take a quick time out now that all of the leaders have completed their first pit stop. Satoru Nakajima about to be overtaken. Look at the rubber bouncing all over the racetrack. Rubber coming off the tires. You don't want to get offline here in Suzuka. There's the second place car, head bobbing about in the yellow helmet of the world champion, Ayrton Senna.
And there you see the gap, 4.67 seconds. Certainly not insurmountable from Senna's point of view, and certainly not absolutely dead safe from Alan Prost, but better than the 4.6-second deficit.
As the battle continues to rage between McLaren teammates Prost and Senna, we'll take another pause for commercial message and be right back. Track Facts are brought to you by USF&G Asset Management, a network to better manage money, people, property, and equipment.
A Formula One car is one of the safest vehicles on the road. It's carbon fiber chassis, fuel cells, 6-point seat belt, oxygen and fire bottles make it a very safe, high-performance package. But there's one point of safety that Formula One just doesn't have time for. That's the wheel safety clip. This is a part of qualifying, practice, and warm-up, some 5.5 hours of running all weekend long. But when it comes to the Grand Prix itself, the wheel safety clip is excluded. The reason is because they simply can't remove and install the clip fast enough during a 5 or 6 second pit stop. So the wheel safety clip is never used during the Grand Prix. Now, to compensate for that, the Brabham team uses a very large impact wrench that actually develops some 500 pounds of torque on the one very large wheel nut. But the wheel safety clip itself is excluded from every Grand Prix.
At 175 clicks, rapidly moving up towards 175 miles an hour. You're on board with Ayrton Senna of Brazil, the defending world champion, running in second place to his McLaren Honda teammate Alain Prost by 3.2 seconds.
You can hear that V10 Honda humming along there at round about 11,500 RPM. Did I say V12? V10? V10. And he snicks it down the fifth of that left hand and hangs in there. Boy, it must be right on the rev limiter, down the front straight. This is quite a steep downhill. It doesn't look it on the screen now, but it is quite steeply downhill. Has a go at adjusting everything, doesn't he? Pulls his seatbelt, then he has a go at his helmet.
And all he's doing is
coming into 100 miles an hour corner, yeah.
We watched him. It was a delight to watch these onboard cameras during practice and qualifying, as Senna often took his hands off the wheel to play with his belts and tighten himself into the cockpit. Absolutely amazing.
Going through these S's here at an average speed of round about 111. He goes to 162 there, but boy, look how quick it shoots up to 215, 230.
That's uphill.
This is uphill. And going through a very sharp corner.
Watch this one. This is listed as one corner on the map, the Degner curve. It's actually two, as you can see.
There's his teammate just going into that right-hander, so he's certainly not out of shape yet. And of course he is in fact 3.2 seconds behind. He made up about a second, nearly a second on that last lap.
But coming into this race, Prost led Senna 76 to 60 in the points. Therefore, Senna must win both of the final races of the year, here in Japan and in Australia in 2 weeks, to have any hope of retaining his world championship. A few weeks ago in Spain, all he needed was 2 victories and a second-place finish. But in that race, his teammate, Alain Prost, finished third, netting 1 point. He had to drop points. Only your top 11 scores count. So he netted 1 point after dropping those he needed to, and that may have been the most important point of the Formula One season, because with that point, this man, Ayrton Senna, could no longer do with a second-place finish in Japan or Australia. He has to win both races. Right now, he is second by 3.2 seconds to Prost.
Of course, it's extremely tough on Prost, who's got so many more points, and of course had a lot more points than Ayrton Senna last year, that you have to keep watching. Once you've had 11 out of these 16 races, you have to keep on dropping points. And of course, the thing about Senna is, Prost, he keeps getting 6 points at a time, and he has to give up big chunks of points. And so if he came second today, it wouldn't help him one little bit. It would give him 2 out of his 6 points, but if Senna was to win the next race, it would still all be over, because they would tie on the points, and Senna would then get the championship because of the win. Senna, a new fastest lap of the race, and also a new lap record for this racetrack, race lap record at a 43.3, which eclipses last year's race record of a 43.8 by Alain Prost. So Senna has now got the qualifying position, qualifying speed here, and now the race lap.
Absolutely, the 2 dominant drivers in Formula One the last 2 seasons. Working traffic. Derek Warren.
Everybody getting out of the way pretty well there too. Gujamin, of course, very close personal friend of Ayrton Senna. They shared a room in London when they were both doing Formula 3, the lesser formulas in England, Formula 4 in Gujamin's case, and they've remained good friends ever since. So Gujamin, no doubt, trying to help Ayrton Senna on to win his second world championship.
From high over the Suzuka circuit, a couple of hours south of Tokyo, Japan.
There you see a good shot there of the crossover. That shot there, them being on the high road and the low road going underneath them. That gap going into the chicane, about the same as it was last lap, even though Senna had to get around those 2 lapped cars. So Senna keeping the pressure right on his teammate here. But Prost is used to pressure. Prost coming up on Martin Brundle in the Brabham.
And in the background, you see Ayrton Senna closing the gap. 2.8 seconds now the margin from first to second. Gerhard Berger, another 23 seconds behind.
Prost stuck behind Brundle. I thought he'd get Brundle before the end, and again, caught him up at the worst possible place going into those long S's.
Don't mind that graphic. It's not 2.8 seconds now. Prost gets by Brundle, but Senna has closed up. My guess is to about 1.8 seconds now. There they go up the hill.
Very close, very close.
Senna fought and passed Prost late in the race a year ago to win his first world championship. Now more than anything, Prost, who took the lead at the start of this race, wants to hold him behind. He wants to win this race and thereby be captain of his own destiny. A finish in second or worse by this man, Ayrton Senna, would also ensure Prost his world championship. There's Senna trying to get inside of Brundle. We'll be right back to Japan.
A few different ones, but obviously one of my favorite ones is a Ferrari.
I drive a Honda, and I have a second car, which I don't drive too much, which is a Mer.
I drive a Renault 21 Turbo and then a Space.
I have a Honda, given by Honda for sure, and I also drive a Mercedes in the last 10 years.
No, I have a nice Ford Sierra. Now I have a Cosworth Sapphire that we have in England, so I drive that around.
I drive a Jaguar XJS. A Honda and a Mercedes.
So I drive the BMW in the Group A racing. I test the Honda, and I'm racing for Benetton. So I have a BMW, a Honda, and a Ford as a company car, plus a Mercedes as a private car.
Is your leader by 1.8 seconds now over teammate Ayrton Senna. The front straightaway here in Suzuka, Japan has gotten a bit more treacherous. Olivier Grouillard dropped oil or coolant down the length of the pit straightaway. He is on the outside line, so the drivers will no doubt be cautioned by their pits to stay in the middle of the racetrack when they're on the pit straightaway. Senna running second. The gap now expanded a little bit, just over 2 seconds. Gerhard Berger slips further behind, now 32 seconds in arrears. He's added a few more seconds in just a couple of laps. 33 laps now complete here in the Japanese Grand Prix. Sandro Nannini runs third, about 5 seconds behind Berger. Nigel Mansell another 5 behind Nannini. Ricardo Patrese 27 seconds behind them.
I think I heard Mansell going past here, making a terrible row then and being swept by Patrese sweeping by him, but I just could have got it wrong. I was doing the unforgivable. I was looking out the window.
There is another mark at stake here if a McLaren wins this race, and right now it looks like they're in position to do so. McLaren now has 80 Grand Prix wins. They would break into the 80s with their 81st, second only to Ferrari's 97. Satoru Nelson Piquet, I believe, in the 11 Lotus, being passed by your leader, Alain Prost.
Now then, we could see something here, because Nelson Piquet and Ayrton Senna aren't exactly the best of pals, especially after some of Piquet's press comments about Senna a couple of years ago. And it'll be interesting to see if he tries to make life very difficult for his countrymen.
That business about Senna not liking the company of women, what's he got to be upset about?
I can't understand it. In fact, is Senna dropping back? Is Senna slowing up? He's not making very much ground on Nelson Piquet. Berger in the pits.
Gerhard Berger has brought his Ferrari into the pit. John Bizignano is down there. Meanwhile, the battle continues up front. Here's John.
Gerhard Berger comes into the Ferrari pits very slowly. He has switched off the engine and he's undoing his seatbelts. Earlier when he came in, the back wheels were spinning slightly when the car was up on the jacks. Again, that gives some indication to a possible gearbox or clutch problem. We don't want to speculate till we get the official word, but Gerhard Berger is out of the Japanese Grand Prix.
And one of our 4 dramatic players in this little play here in Japan is now out. Gerhard Berger was running a very bad third, to put it frankly. He is now gone. That moves Sandro Nannini in the Benetton, the top V8 runner in the field, up into 3rd place.
Here we see a replay at the hairpin. Ooh, it's Nannini.
And one of the Dolares coming together looks like Andrea De Cesaris. And now De Cesaris has a reputation.
Oh, that's Pirro again.
It's Pirro again.
Now, you missed that last time. I told you we'd seen Pirro touch wheels with Jean Alesi at the same place. Well, apparently you hadn't seen it because you're right in the middle of a commercial, but that's exactly what he did last time, folks, so we know he can do it once. He just proved he can do it again.
Senna going down the inside of Piquet. Getting back to my point, De Cesaris takes a rap as being an accident-prone driver. They call him De Crasherist. I'd have to lay that one firmly at the feet of Pirro.
Yeah, I think that development engine of Pirro, the development Ford engine, is obviously extremely powerful because he had absolutely rocketed through the field from 22nd on the grid. He was up to 9th and running very, very strongly, but no more.
it into the barriers pretty firmly as well. And there it will sit for Emanuele Pirot, who has more miles on this racetrack than anyone. Nigel Mansell pulling up behind one of the Brabhams. Mansell shown 5th. He will move up to 4th because our electronic timing system has not taken account of Gerhard Berger dropping out. Mansell dodging to the inside, contrails flying as the water is crushed out of the air over the wing of the Ferrari.
That's going round Martin Brundle. Martin Brundle, well known to American fans as an IMSA driver for the Jaguar team and of course a world sports car champion last year, but back in his beloved Formula One behind the wheel of a Brabham this year.
Alain Prost remaining the leader, 2.2 seconds. The gap, make that 3.3 seconds now. The gap back to Ayrton Senna as the chess game continues between the McLaren Honda teammates. Up the fastest part of the racetrack, down into 5th gear. I can't believe they're downshifting going into this turn, but they need to use the engine brake as they get to this point, a bumpy braking area for this chicane.
Well, it's obviously just a marginal brake for that left-hand flick. They lose a bit of speed. If they tried to do it in top gear, they'd have just not quite enough engine, and they just go to that little downshift. They must have a very close 5th and 6th ratio set up, which just allows them to slip it down into 5th. But if you want to get that right, I tell you, if you just make it one of those little quick downshifts for a corner like that, and you select neutral by mistake, you're in deep trouble, sunshine.
Now, a disturbing trend among the McLarens in the past few races has been the gearbox tightening up in the late going. As you just mentioned, David, something you don't want to have happen in a place like Suzuka, which, like its big brother at Spa, Belgium, is very rarely level or straight. A lot of shifting on the racetrack, a lot of clutching. And Prost in particular has had trouble with his gearbox stiffening up on him in the late going.
The drivers all seem to think that this is probably the most fun circuit to drive on. It's certainly the most demanding, the most difficult. It's very difficult to overtake on. The yellow flag out there for Pirot's car, I suspect, which is nosed into the barrier and in fact well out of harm's way. But it may be for something around this corner. No. I think the yellow flag was for Pirot's car, which actually is well out of the way. Around that right-hander, hard on the brakes with a spoon. Apex there, lets the car run really wide in 3rd. Another apex, and sweeps up the hill onto that back straight. Very important to get this corner here right, because you're now about to go onto that main long straight. Every 100 RPM you can come onto this straight with, you'll maintain that 100 all the way.
There is the gap, 1st to 2nd. The World Championship is at stake.
If it stays like we see it now, the World Championship is done and Alain Prost would come out the winner. But we have another 19, 20 odd laps to go, just under 20 laps to go. Lap 36 run at the moment. 17 laps to go.
Officially 16 laps now remain as the start-finish lights change. Prost, your leader, with 37 complete, 2.9 seconds the gap to Senna, so he has brought another 4/10 back in hand as the gap continues to expand and contract. Shadows are stark once again, the sun beginning to poke through here in Japan. And even though it's an industrial town, Suzuka, the home of an enormous Honda factory, it is a very beautiful part of Japan, very close to the ocean, with dark tropical mountains all around. A lovely part of Japan, and the hospitality has been absolutely wonderful. 2.9 seconds the gap, 1st to 2nd to the Japanese Grand Prix. Lola sits forlornly by the side of the racetrack in Suzuka, Japan, as the race continues for the World Championship. It will happen here. There is Sandro Nannini making his way around one of the Dallaras. There is other action in the Ford camp. Let's go down to the pit lane and John Bizignano.
Steve Medincia from Detroit and the advertising agency with Ford, Campbell & Company. Steve, you must be quite happy about the way Pirot's Ford development engine was running here.
Well, we're very pleased with the evolution of the updates that we've made on the engine, John. It's an ongoing process. Every race we try to learn more and keep improving.
He actually qualified 22nd, was all the way up to 8th. Will the Ford V8 be able to really compete with the V10s and V12s of Honda and Ferrari next season?
Well, we certainly hope so. That's the direction that we're going to go in with the updates that we're making every weekend.
Well, Steve, I think there's a lot of fans that hope the same thing. For 1990, let's see some more competition out there, especially from Ford.
Thank you, John.
You're watching Riccardo Patrese making his way down the start-finish straightaway here in Suzuka. Your leader is Alain Prost. 5-6 cars make that remain on the lead lap. Patrese in 5th, followed by his Williams teammate Terry Boutsen. You saw Philippe Alliot's car out of the race. Piquet running 8th, Stefano Modena 9th. Let me regurgitate that. With Alliot out of the race, Piquet is now 7th. 8th will be Stefano Modena. 9th, Maurizio Gugelmin. 10th, Satoru Nakajima, followed by Martin Brundle, Derek Warwick, Jean Alesi, Eddie Cheever. 14 cars remain in the race. And now a problem on Nigel Mansell's number 27 Ferrari.
Ooh, very bad smoke coming out the back. We saw just 3 weeks ago in Spain, we saw Gerhard Berger's Ferrari do just that for about 30 laps, and all thinking, well, that's it, that's the end of that. But he carried on. Can Nigel Mansell do the same thing? It looks pretty bad to me.
I don't think so with that car. I looked down into the Ferrari pit trying to pick out Cesare Fiorio, the team leader, and I saw one of the mechanics waving his hands back and forth as though he were signaling a base runner safe in baseball. I think what he means is that this could be the end for our man Nigel.
Well, it comes and goes. The cornering definitely seems to set it off and slowing down. Ooh, no,
I don't think so. It's a pretty good indication right there that he has a serious problem. Flames underneath the back of the Ferrari. He will no doubt be told that his car is on fire in no uncertain terms. Let's hope they don't wave a black flag. Contrail streaming, but Nigel Mansell, who had hoped to tie Sterling Moss's record of 16 Formula One Grand Prix victories, is not looking good right now. 14 laps remaining in the race. Looks like he's going to give it a go for as long as he can.
Well, those flames coming out from under the hood there, I mean, it just looks like a simple oil leak. And look at that lead now, down to nothing.
This is for the lead in the race. This is for the World Championship. Alain Prost trying to hold off Ayrton Senna there in traffic. And as David mentioned before, nobody does it better than the guy in the yellow helmet.
And they both got to get around Eddie Cheever. Eddie Cheever making it very, very easy, getting right over, right out of the way. He doesn't want to be a part of it.
Here's where it happened a year ago on the pit straightaway in Suzuka, Japan, but not this lap.
Well, let's just lay off for a minute here and listen to it and watch it all happen from Ayrton Senna's point of view.
Ayrton Senna set fast lap to get to this position, and now he stalks once again. The big question is, how are those tires holding up? It's been a long time for Prost tires. Senna has about 5 more laps, or 5 fewer laps, I should say, on his tires at this point. It is Prost over Senna, and the gap is too close to call. Just a couple of car lengths. We'll break away quickly and come right back. You're watching the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix. 6 cars remain on the lead lap. Back in Japan, where the battle continues between the 2 McLaren Hondas. Alain Prost leads. Ayrton Senna stalks, less than half a second behind. Sandro Nannini runs in 3rd position. Nigel Mansell with that flaming Ferrari is 4th. Yellow flags for the Lola Lamborghini that's been out of the race for some time. Ricardo Patrese runs in 5th position.
Senna again, you know, he's starting to have trouble with that hairpin. Now, I wonder if his tires are going off. He's definitely got a bit of an understeer problem. And trying to battle it, he's pitching the car just a little bit, which gives him an oversteer problem. That's another car that's joined.
Satoru Nakajima has pulled up his Lotus behind the Lola, so we had a fresh representative in the parking lot here at Suzuka.
Well, that'll be disappointing for Nakajima and, of course, his thousands of Japanese fans who came here to see him today. The leaders into that fast left-hand sweep. Down a 5th, both on the take 5th there. Senna uses all the road. The tyres look okay, don't they? As they come into that corner, you can't see any signs. Just as they go round the corner, that left tyre picks up a mark, but I don't think that's anything.
Senna making a run for it once again. He seems to be able to close it up again, even though he has trouble in the tight hairpin. This is a battle that they'll be talking about in Formula One circles for years to come. The 2 best drivers of their day, Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna. They do not see eye to eye. You can barely get them. In fact, I was unable to this weekend to mention each other's names. Prost goes to Ferrari next year, and he makes no secret that most of the reason he leaves McLaren is because of Senna's presence. Rumors fly that Senna may not be with McLaren or in Formula One at all after another year or so.
Well, I think the fact remains the only reason he's leaving is because of Ayrton Senna. And, of course, if he should...
Mansell. It finally came to an end for the Ferrari. well off the racetrack.
Yeah, he's parked that well out of harm's way as the leaders sweep by. Disappointing. Oh, here we go.
Another look at the final expiration of Nigel Mansell's Ferrari. I've mentioned before that the 27 is famous among Ferrari fans as belonging to the late Gilles Villeneuve. A skeptic here at the racetrack told me, no, 27 belonged to Alan Jones of Australia, a world champion. Nigel trying to put out the fire out there. Well, that 16th Formula One victory to tie Sterling Moss among British Formula One drivers will have to wait until Adelaide, Australia in 2 weeks. And don't forget, it'll be coming to you here on ESPN at 8:30 in the morning Eastern Time.
All peering under the hood of the Ferrari. Nigel sitting there making sure it's gone out. Still smoke coming up through those radiator louvers. But that, of course, is blowing from the back to the front of the car. But it's obviously still on fire.
Nigel Mansell, we should point out, has dropped all of his appeals against his suspension from the race in Spain. Ferrari, in a series of, if I may say so, rather smarmy letters to FISA, the international governing body, said in the interest of the sport, they were going to drop all of their appeals. Jean-Marie Balestre, president and newly elected president of FISA, responded that he thought that was totally admirable.
In an equally smarmy fashion, I thought. But there it is. Now then, Senna has really closed up as they go through the S's. Into that key right. Then it's going to be followed by that very long left-hander, which is going to bring us up to where Mansell's parked his car. Tough corner. Long, very fast, doing about 175 here as they brake, swing wide. There's Mansell's car on the left. Now they're going downhill, down to third, clips that curve, up, well up on the outside curve.
The gap is not 0.6 of a second. Well, it may be at this point, but now here's the hairpin where Senna has been having so many problems.
Not that lap. Using all the road, but he certainly, of course, this acceleration business is a bit confusing. Obviously, they close right up on each other in the slow bits, but if a gap is 0.6 of a second and you're doing 200 miles an hour, it's a long gap. If you're doing 30 miles an hour, it's just a couple of feet.
The gap somewhat more stable. Alain Prost continues to lead. Nigel Mansell begins the longest walk in racing back to the pit, and we'll be back to Japan in a moment. The Formula One schedule is now available. We'll be coming to you throughout the year on ESPN, and most important, the U.S. Grand Prix in Phoenix has been moved to the first event of the schedule. March 11th, we'll be coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona, with the Formula One Grand Prix of the United States, and you see the rest of the 1990 schedule in front of you. 7 laps remain. At the end of this lap, it will be 6 laps remaining in the Grand Prix of Japan, and you see the gap. McLaren teammates and Ron Dennis, the team owner, looking on as their boys go after it. Prost in front, Senna in second. Prost wants to win, Senna has to win. Let's get a quick comment from John Visignano in the pits.
The tension down in the McLaren pits, it is very strong, and it is one of competition. There's no greater competition between teammates and between those teams' mechanics. Up on the victor's podium now, we have the trophies and the champagne. Who is it going to be for? Can it be both for the champion of Japan and the champion of the world? Only a car length separates the two as the in-car camera makes it as live as possible for the ESPN fans back in the USA. We will know in the next
Senna going down the inside. Oh, and a collision.
Oh, the worst of all possible circumstances. A collision between the teammates. You got a quick look at the Honda official there directing the team's engine mechanics with 7 laps remaining.
Prost has given up. Senna has not. I wonder if Senna's engine's still running.
Push me.
Well, there's your new world champion. If they can't start those cars, Prost has won the championship.
And Senna's giving it everything he's got in an attempt to get the engine fired.
Can't be pushed out.
Well, he was. And you also can't re-enter the racetrack at a point other than where you left it. Now the ball is in the FISA's court. The race officials will no doubt be asked. Oh, he's got more serious problems, but certainly the race officials will have to wave a black flag now, I would think, for Ayrton Senna. They must call him in. They can't let him finish the race, although it looks like he's not likely to with 6 laps remaining.
A disappointed Prost, no doubt, but on the other hand, by my reckoning, a world champion.
David, I must cut in here and say that you are allowed to push the car out of harm's way. Now, that is very much a value decision on the officials and the crews out on the racetrack. I was saying they were only a car length apart when they came together. 6 laps to go now, but Ayrton Senna is back on the track with a broken wing. They have a nose set out here in the McLaren pits, but we just got the sign from Gordon Murray to keep him on the track. They don't want him in the pits.
The rest of the nose came off, and he very nearly went off the racetrack.
Well, you can be pushed out of the way, but you can't be pushed started.
Now there is no wing on the front of the McLaren. He has no front aerodynamics. Sandro Nannini is 35 seconds behind, and what a surprise it would be if the Ford-powered V8 Benetton can come through for victory. You saw Alain Prost walking back. He may be the new world champion, but I think even despite his personal animosity for this man, Ayrton Senna, this is not the way he would have chosen to claim his 3rd world title. Senna trying now to maintain an ever-shortening gap over the Benetton.
Well, half a minute and 6 laps is asking a lot, even when he hasn't got his front wing. But it will make it incredibly unstable going up this straight and turning into this very fast left-hander with all that rear wing and, of course, no front wing to help him. Now, just be careful, I'm surprised we haven't seen a replay of that. It's into the pits.
Well, now, depending on how long it takes them to get that nose off, put a new one on, can Senna get back into the race? No sign of Nannini down the start-finish straightaway yet. John will cover the pits. I'll be watching the top of the hill. Go ahead, John.
Both crews, both Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna's crews are all over this car. The nose, of course, was removed on the track. They are trying to fit a new one. They had to check the crash box first. They had a spare crash box. The crash box was okay. The Zeus fasteners are going down. Ayrton Senna has wiped his visor, and he is gone with a brand new nose. It's going to take a while to sort it all out again.
And Nannini has taken the lead of the race.
He comes back out in 2nd place, does Ayrton Senna. The Dallara goes by him as well, but that was, I believe, Alex Coppi, who is a lap down. 5 laps remaining, and Ayrton Senna is in 2nd place. Sandro Nannini has his first lead, by my reckoning, in a Formula One Grand Prix ever. His best finish, a 3rd place.
Here we see a replay.
Here's another look at the contact between the 2 contenders for the World Championship. Senna tried to come up under Prost and braking. Prost is on the left, Senna is on the right.
Prost could have given him room there. There's no doubt about it. Prost turned into him. He had left no room for Senna, but Senna, being Senna, had decided that's the room he wanted and was right up onto the edge of the road. But right at the last minute, you definitely see Alain Prost turn into him. He could have given him more room. There's no doubt about it. It seemed like a pretty deliberate move to me. There you see Tyler Alexander on the right. Tyler Alexander has been associated with McLaren since the days of Bruce McLaren back in the mid-60s. And, of course, ran their American arm, the Indianapolis race cars, for a long time. Here we see another look at it. See, he's right into pit lane. Senna is right in pit lane, but just right here, Prost turns in. But as you can see, he hasn't really got to the corner. He wouldn't normally turn into about there.
Well, I said it was a battle that they'd be talking about for years to come, and they will certainly talk about that maneuver. We've said many glowing things about Alain Prost over the years. Senna's going to try the pit entrance route again. Oof.
But he wasn't going to run into the Dallara this time.
Wow. So the events continue to run dramatically here at Japan. Sandro Nannini is your leader, and now it's the Benetton team's turn to chew their fingernails. Behind them, Ayrton Senna is roaring back into contention. He puts Andrea de Cesaris behind him. He's 4.5 seconds behind. You're watching from the car of Ayrton Senna making his way up the hill at Suzuka. This is a replay of an incident that happened moments ago as he tried to pass Alain Prost on the inside. The 2 cars came to a quick and very sloppy stop.
Well, I think we're going to see Ayrton Senna black flagged anyway, because I'm convinced it's wrong to push start cars. You can push them out of the way, but I'm absolutely sure that you cannot push start. I mean, that's one of the good things about American racing, IndyCar racing, NASCAR racing. You can push it. You can put it behind the pit wall, fiddle around with it, and go out again. But you can't in Formula One, and I'm pretty sure that Ayrton Senna is going to get the black flag next time past the pits.
Well, doesn't this set up an ironic set of circumstances and a coincidence, because it was ignoring the black flag, not deliberately, according to the driver involved, that Nigel Mansell was excluded from Spain. And there's more to that story I'll tell you in a moment. Let's go down to John quickly as Ayrton Senna reels in the Benetton of Sandro Nannini, the race leader.
David, the example I'm talking about is when Ricardo Patrese was pushed out of harm's way in Monaco a few years. They did not push him to start the car. They pushed him out of harm's way, and he started the motor, and that was considered legal. So Ricardo Patrese was started out of a Lowe's hairpin several years ago and went on to win Monte Carlo in the rain. But again, confusion reigns down here. We have asked several team managers what the story is, and confusion again reigns in the pits of Formula One.
There are 3 laps remaining, and there was no black flag shown for Ayrton Senna. There is the view from his car with a half-second gap up to the leader, Sandro Nannini.
Well, I do think that the Formula One authorities really want this championship to go down to the wire, and I think that one of the reasons that Nigel Mansell was banned from the race in Spain was because he had pushed Ayrton Senna out of the race, thereby upsetting the apple cart. And I wouldn't be surprised if the FISA rules are being bent on this occasion to make sure that the championship goes down to Adelaide, because I'm convinced that you cannot push-start car. You can push him out of the way, but you can't really push-start the engine, which is what they did. He was well out of the way.
This is for the lead.
And, of course, he'll pass Nannini, I would think, although Nannini's going to make it difficult for him, but I don't think he's got the poop to keep that Honda engine McLaren at bay.
I said there was more to the story of the black flags. In Spain, where Mansell was absent for having ignored or missed the black flag in Portugal, Ayrton Senna himself missed black flags or ignored them. He had about 10 of them on one of his qualifying laps when the black flag was shown for a crash by Gregor Wojtek. He was fined $20,000 as opposed to the $50 grand and suspension meted out to Mansell. A lot of folks wondered about a double standard.
Of course, it makes it hard for everybody to know how to race, too, if the rules are going to be changed every time you go out to race.
There's the pit entry technique again, and this time it works. Nannini lit him up, but he let him by.
Well, he gave him room, whereas, of course, Alan Prost just gave him no room at all. And that, of course, was exactly the same place.
And so the crowd on its feet. The Japanese have a lot of Brazilian flags here today. They also have a lot of Ferrari flags, but no Ferraris remain. The Brazilian flags wave for Ayrton Senna, and it may be a while before we know whether the Brazilian has in fact kept his world title defense hopes alive by winning this Japanese Grand Prix, which he will almost certainly do at this point. With 2 laps remaining, there will be 1 to go when he crosses the start-finish line this time. Here's another look. The first time it did not work, this time it did for Ayrton Senna.
Right down the inside, Sandro Nannini getting out onto the dirty bit of the track he doesn't want to be on, starts to lock the brakes up any second now, but of course decides that discretion is the better part of valor. Second is better than the DNF, and does not turn in and whip his front wheel off and Senna's rear wheel and lets him through. Pretty well inevitable. That's also one of those outbraking maneuvers that is more a function of the speed of approach or the speed of acceleration of the overtaking car than his ability to outbrake too, because he's catching him up all the time. They get to the corner and he just carries on that momentum.
Your leader is Senna. Second is Sandro Nannini, his best finish, should he finish there, of his career. Behind him, Ricardo Patrese and Terry Boutsen in the Williams running a quiet race. They are 15 seconds back, running in 3rd and 4th. Nelson Piquet, the last car on the lead lap, almost a complete lap down. In 5th, Martin Brundle, Derek Warwick, Maurizio Gugelmin, Eddie Cheever, Alex Caffey, Andrea De Cesaris, the only remaining cars in the race. 11 cars of the 26 starters remain in the Grand Prix of Japan. 1 lap to go.
Well, Derek Warwick lying in 7th position, just out of the points, but I bet if you'd spoken to him this afternoon, he certainly would, at the grid when he was in 23rd spot, 25th spot. I doubt for him very much if he'd have thought he'd come 7th this afternoon.
What an amazing Grand Prix we have seen today. Certainly one for the record books. And they will certainly look more and more like a legal textbook. After all of the fines and all of the penalties that we've seen this year, all of the interesting tactics taken on the racetrack and off. But at this point, it appears that Ayrton Senna will at least finish as the tentative winner of the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan. Down to the hairpin he comes one more time. A Lotus and a Lamborghini among the cars that will not finish the race today.
Well, if you can try it on and get away with it, you might as well.
Happy smiling faces from the Honda engineers. This is their home track. This is the race they most want to win. The only thing that might have made them happier perhaps was having a Honda world champion declared today. But the only man capable of that was Alain Prost. And he collided with this man, his teammate Ayrton Senna, just a few short laps ago, and he is out of the race. I wonder if he has any second thoughts about leaving his race car up there.
I don't think he was in a very good state. But
we didn't think Senna was either. Once more, through the chicane for the last time. And a Japanese crowd of more than 150,000 are on their feet to watch the McLaren Honda of Ayrton Senna of Brazil cross the start-finish line. Checkered flags, perhaps very appropriate for a checkered victory here today.
Well, if the victory stands, that'll be the first two-time victory of the Japanese Grand Prix. Senna winning it back-to-back years, 1988, 1989.
And wrapping himself on the side of the helmet. Perhaps a bit of self-congratulation for this man who was in tears after the victory that brought in the World Championship on this racetrack 1 year ago. Is he wiping his eyes once again? I think he might be. The only other incident he had, which resulted in hard words between the two McLaren drivers, was at Imola earlier this year when they came to an agreement between them that whoever won the first corner would be allowed to win the race and would not be challenged by his teammate. Ayrton Senna made that deal and then turned against it and passed Prost after Prost had won the battle to the first turn. Afterwards, Prost argued with his man, with his teammate, and Senna broke down in tears in the McLaren Transporter. More tears again today for Senna. Down comes the visor one more time. He will at least be the provisional winner of this race. Sandro Nannini, Riccardo Patrese, Terry Boutsen, and Nelson Piquet follow. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan has been brought to you by Acura Legend and Integra. Precision crafted performance exclusively at your Acura dealer. By Mobil 1 Synthetic Motor Oil. Mobil 1, isn't your car worth the extra protection? By Sony Trinitron XBR. Every castle should have one. And by USF&G Asset Management, a network to better manage money, people, property, and equipment. Back in Japan, where what we billed as perhaps the turning point in the Formula One World Championship has turned out to be exactly that, but not in the method that we thought it might. We've just been told that Ayrton Senna has been disqualified from the Grand Prix of Japan. Let's take another look at the critical moment in this race. With just a handful of laps remaining, Senna tried to overtake his teammate Alain Prost by using the entrance to the pit lane. Prost moved over on his line. The two cars locked together and slid off onto the escape road. Prost climbed from his cockpit, but Senna stayed in his and was push-started by the officials.
And of course, push-starting in international racing is a no-no. And not only was he push-started, but he then drove on through the chicane, which is also an escape road, and rejoined after the chicane. And of course, he had a double black mark for a push start and of course for going through the chicane the wrong way, and they ultimately disqualified him.
That makes Sandro Nannini the winner of the race and Alain Prost a three-time world champion. Here's John with the new champ.
Alain Prost, welcome to another world championship. Congratulations. What happened out on the circuit?
Today was a special day. I mean, I did a good job during the weekend to set up my car the best I could on race condition, and I think I did a good job on this side with my engineer, with my mechanics, and I just concentrated on the best start possible, and then after that I've controlled the race very well. I mean, everything was very good, and was absolutely no way that I think Ayrton could overtake me. I was quite confident in front of him, and the only way he could pass was the way he tried, but it was impossible. I mean, I was too far behind.
Of course, he continued, and there was a chance that he may be allowed to take a victory here. A lot of discussion up in the tower. What went on in the tower, Alain?
You know, it's difficult. In fact, it's not my business. You know, I just read the regulation, and the regulation was very clear, and it's not my job. You know, I can't comment this decision. And
which regulation did you read, Alain?
Oh, it's just that if you are pushed, you have to be pushed without any other mistakes or errors. But he has been pushed in not on the track itself. You know? And I mean, ask the clerk of the course. It's not my job. I don't want to polemic about that.
Well, I think I certainly speak for myself and all the fans of the United States at ESPN. Congratulations on an excellent World Championship. Congratulations, Alain.
Thank you, and thank you for my finds instead.
And with that, here are your final results from the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan. Sandro Nannini first for Benetton Ford, followed by the Williams-Renault team, Riccardo Patrese and Terry Boutsen second and third. Nelson Piquet finishes fourth for Lotus, followed by Martin Brundle fifth for Brabham, and Derek Warwick for the USF&G Arrows team picks up the final point in sixth position. Points to date, Alain Prost clinches with 76 points. Ayrton Senna will take 60 to the season finale in Adelaide, Australia. Nigel Mansell third with 38. Riccardo Patrese moves up to fourth with 36. Terry Boutsen and Sandro Nannini move into a tie for fifth place with 28 each. David, with his third World Championship, Alain Prost moves into some pretty heady company.
Well, he certainly does. By crashing out of today's race, he joins a very elite list, headed by Juan Manuel Fangio, who won 5 championships, then Sir Jack Brabham with 3, Jackie Stewart 3, Niki Lauda 3, Nelson Piquet 3, and now Alain Prost. And unhappy as he is, I'm sure that he was not like to have clinched it just quite that manner today.
Well, there are certainly plenty of loose ends to be drawn up on this Formula One season, and that will happen in 2 weeks' time in Adelaide, Australia. I may have had the wrong date before. It is Sunday, November 5th. We'll be